Bene, abbiamo in linea, come diceva Rose Wake, questo fa parte della nostra serie di appuntamenti con il gruppo Ascolta Women, gruppo di donne italo-australiane, autrici, ma non solo autrici, esperte nel design, illustrazione, del teatro, di altre forme artistiche, e parleremo con lei, tra l'altro, di quello che fa con il gruppo Ascolta Women. So, buon pomeriggio, Rose. Thank you for connecting with Radio Italia 1 Adelaide.
Thank you for the opportunity today.
Okay, so you're in
Melbourne.
in Ascolta Women and in Melbourne. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a strong presence in Melbourne. I guess that's where the group was founded. And a strong presence also in the university sector amongst researchers. And that is your background as well.
Absolutely. I've probably had about 18 to 20 years in the teaching profession, starting with secondary schools and the TAFE sector as well, and then the higher education area in the TAFE sector, and then with Monash University. So I've been with Monash for a while, and my thesis was my master's degree, and my thesis was at Monash. I've done a few little degrees with Melbourne, but yeah, I'm affiliated with Monash University, especially with this new research project of the Italian proxy brides and their daughters. Yeah.
Proxy brides. So now you said master's, and then you said thesis. Was that master's thesis?
A doctoral thesis.
Doctoral?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
and was that on the
yes.
Proxy brides?
Yes, it was. It was based on, it was an autoethnography study based on my life as a daughter of a proxy bride and a proxy marriage between my mother and my father. So it was 6 years part-time and pretty harrowing at times and exhilarating at other times when I was able to actually get information and found out there were so many more proxy brides and marriages. The history around that was really exhilarating for me. So that's what's given me the passion to really continue on this journey.
Okay, yeah, the topic of proxy brides is big. There are lots of them, I guess. I don't know, maybe you can tell us the number and the size of this phenomenon. But you said a word there that was a bit interesting, unusual. Autoethnography. What is that?
Autoethnography, yes. Autoethnography is a methodology that is written. So you write as you're the author and writing of your story in the first, in the first voice or in the second voice, but you write about your life or, a story around your life. And so with my autoethnographies are about my lived experience as the daughter of a proxy bride and what came with that. So I'm also a cultural hybrid because I was born here of migrant parents. So having the Italian Calabrese background and then being raised in Australian society. So, yes.
Okay, well, let's start from the proxy bride experience in general. I guess that would have been part of what you've studied. What things have come out? First of all, how big, how many people do we know? How many people we're talking about in Australia?
So statistically, they're saying the scholars have, historically written that during the 1945 to 1976. It's about 300,000 people that were married by proxy bride came to Australia, and by proxy marriage, sorry, travelled to Australia. So they work out it's about 8% of proxy marriages happened in Australia, more towards Melbourne, Adelaide, and Western Australia. I don't know if those statistics still hold today, That's my job, though. That's why I'm doing the research project to find out more information and more data around that subject.
Okay, roughly 300,000 people married by proxy. An aunt of mine, an uncle and an aunt of mine were married by proxy. Interesting. And from what I could tell, just about the best marriage I've ever seen.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah. So, and what's staying on the general experience? What themes come out? What do we know?
So I started just focusing on the Southern Italian proxy marriages because due to the economic recession of the time, but post World War II, um, there was lots of people going to America and to Canada and of course Australia. So from that, and if we really go back in history, America said no more. So Australia take them on, and that was an interesting time, especially with the White Australia policy. But that's we can really get into historical facts there. But from the perspective of what I'm doing now with proxy daughters, is that I'm really finding it difficult to find proxy brides. I've only interviewed one proxy bride. She's in her 90s, and many of them are passed on, or many of them are probably not well enough to actually be interviewed and may have dementia or, a lot of forgetfulness. So that's been really difficult to sort of ascertain. But the daughters are fantastic because they are actually passing on the stories of their mother and their lives with their mother and how that impacted on them.
Now, when I said that marriage was just about the best marriage from what I could tell, did you express some surprise?
I did. I
Mm.
did because what I'm finding now, there's some really good experiences that I'm hearing about, but it's not the majority. It's not the majority. So, and what we're seeing is that it's the migration. It's coming to Australia, to a new country that is not like Italy. That's not like, the villages. Beautiful opportunities. It is the lucky country, was the lucky country for many of them, but there was lots of challenges. Challenges in the country, but also challenges in the marriage, challenges with identity. There's so many reasons why a lot of those marriages, but particularly for the women who really struggled being finding their own identity and being who they wanted to be and couldn't be.
Yes, yeah. And so you've said you've had difficulty finding the brides themselves who to interview, but
Mm,
you focused on the daughters. Let's come back to you because that was the topic of your PhD. What can you tell us
yeah.
about that, your experience?
Okay. So I had lots to talk about,
Yeah.
Antonio, because my parents had five children.
Okay.
I'll go back to mum and dad when dad actually came out here in 49. And he was lucky because he had Zios that were bakers and they had their own business, so he had a job to come to.
Hmm.
Mum came out in 53 because the parents had arranged the proxy marriage. Um, and mum just did what she was told because that's what you did back in the day. And her mother said, okay, you're getting married and then you're getting on a ship to go to Australia to make a new life with your husband. So when she arrived in Port Melbourne in 53, she remembers seeing her father down on the docks and she saw her husband, my dad, with a big bunch of flowers. And
Oh,
she was pleased. She was really pleased to see her father because she idolized her father. And yeah, so that was the beginning of their marriage. And they went on to have five children. I'm number two in the family. And let me tell you, Antonia, that we had a very strict upbringing as daughters. But, mum and dad were very strict, especially mum. Mum was a disciplinarian, so
Okay.
yeah. Dad worked really hard as a baker and ran his own business, and so he wasn't home most of the time. But mum was the strict disciplinarian, and we knew about it. So no going out, no nothing of that. Everything was very, very strict. So yeah.
Okay. And how do you get a PhD out of that? How does that constitute research?
Well, how do you get a PhD? Well, I had lots of data to draw upon, but so as an I one of the things that my parents didn't believe in, my mother didn't believe in, that you educate yourself as a woman for a guy. So I left school relatively early, but then in my 20s, I decided that I wanted to educate myself.
Yep.
And so that's what I did. And so slowly getting into the teaching profession. Firstly, I started off in community services and worked my
Mhm.
way there, and then educated myself in the teaching profession. And then I decided, I want a doctorate. It was my passion. I want a doctorate, but it had to mean something. So, yes, so slowly, I got all the required qualifications, got my master's degree, and then went ahead and got my doctorate, and that's how it was. And it had to be about the proxy brides, because of the impact that it had on me as well, with being brought up as the daughter of a proxy bride.
And what was that? What data did you use then? What's your
I
story
used,
with the proxy
yeah,
bride?
I looked at the history of Italy. I looked at the diasporic history of Italy to Australia. I looked at the proxy marriages right across all of Italy, that came to Australia in particular. But then I focused on the southern Italian information and wrote about that. And then I wrote the stories of my parents and myself, and looked at all the different crossroads between my life and my parents' life. And I talk about my mother really wanting to control my wedding because she never had a wedding. So
Okay.
I was a proxy for her. So she took over and organized everything. I had no choice. But looking back now, I see where she came from. So, and that's rich data to draw upon and write about.
So
Yeah.
what do you see now looking back?
Oh, I see. I have to give my mother a voice because she didn't want to come to Australia.
Hmm.
But what she made of her life here um, was was a good life, but she had many challenges, many medical issues. She had 5 children, and at the age of 30, she had a radical hysterectomy. So the doctors at that time didn't approve of HRT or anything like that. So she was given, you know, medication that was actually more for mental health issues.
Okay.
And yeah, so this was one of the issues that she had in her life, but she made the best of it. I write quite prolifically about her life, and in my autoethnographies, and I've written a story in that book there as well that's just gotten published
So
recently.
women of the diaspora or
Women
diaspora.
of the diaspora. And my chapter in there is I am and I am not my mother. And so
Yes.
I actually look at both our lives and talk, a lot more about our experiences.
And does that filter through into your work with Ascolta Women?
Yes, it does filter through too. So Ascolta Women are amazing. um, we meet every 2 weeks to write our stories, and I feel like I have this sisterhood with the Ascolta women because, there are a whole lot of different women, but there is a connection there. And so when we talk about our lives and, about my story, about, the proxy brides and how I fit in there and what I've made of my life, they get it. They get it. And I hear their stories. And so, yeah, it's just been an amazing experience being with
So
them.
tell me, what have you've contributed some chapters to the anthologies?
Yes, I have. So, the Il Corpo, the last one, and this one is the of the heart. So
Okay.
that'll be published probably next year. That'll be launched next year.
So
Yeah.
what was the story in Il Corpo?
Il Corpo was about when I worked in aged care, really back in the early days. I spoke about a gentleman that I had met there that I had a great bond with. And this gentleman was a musician, was a classical musician.
Okay.
And we talked about the breath, the lungs and the breath. And so he was
Yes.
a violinist, and he played quite beautifully. And for me, I actually was impacted on the way that he was slowly leaving this planet. But we used to play his music to them to while he was unconscious. Well, not unconscious, but he was slowly dying. And I would sit with him. And one day I was just watching him and watching his lungs and thinking about what amazing things these lungs are. And I was there. He didn't want anyone else, but he wanted me there. And so I was there when he took his last breath from those lungs. And so that was for me a gift that I will never ever forget. So that was my story in that anthology.
And the heart, I guess you can't tell, or you maybe shouldn't tell about that
No,
yet.
no,
But we
there's a
also need to move on. Let's talk about your Italianness. I mean, what you've been talking about resonates quite a bit with me. I won't tell you about why right now, but anyway, the your Italianness. So which that doesn't
Wake
sound
is my husband's name. So
yeah.
my name is Rosa Maria Schifano when I
Oh,
was born.
okay.
Yes, so Schifano was my maiden name. And Rosa Maria was the two names that I was given, and I've changed them to Rosemary because as I grew up in school, I copped a lot of racism, and
Yes.
as I got older, and changing my name opened a lot more doors. And so it's Rose Wake now. So it's Dr. Rose Wake, which works well.
Yeah.
So
So and
yes.
where do the Schipano come from?
Schipano is my father's name from the provincia di Catanzaro, and he came from a village called Sant'Angelo.
Sant'Angelo. And is mum, well, you said mum came from from the same village?
No, provincia Catanzaro, but a village called Dassa.
Oh, so they went abroad to find the
Well,
right.
Dad came out here, as I said, in '49 because of the economic situation in the southern part of Italy was not good. So he came to Australia to make a new life, and then caught up with my maternal grandfather, and he said, "I have a daughter for you if you want to
Oh,
marry."
wow. Okay, well, that's a very good start. I mean, if you got normally you have to for say
Yes.
conquistare, you need to convince the in-laws. But
My
okay, so
my
obviously your
my
father got
grandfather,
involved.
yeah,
Your
my
father got
grandfather saw a good man in my father. So and he had a job. He had family behind him, so he knew my mother would be in good hands. So
yes,
yeah.
yes, yes. Well, a little story about this aunt of mine that I said was married by proxy. I only discovered that looking at the photos, wedding photos. So I said, well, hang on, you're getting married to this other uncle. What happened? And she said, well, my husband was in Australia and then we did that here. And she said, coming over on the ship, she said she actually didn't have a photo of her husband. And all the other women who also proxy brides, and they were teasing her. Oh, he must be ugly if he didn't send you a photo. And she sort of, it was pretty tough for her coming over. And then she said, and when I arrived, lui era il più bello di tutti. He was the most handsome of all. So that was a good outcome. Yeah.
Very good. My mother called my mother said that my father looked like Victor Mature. Victor Mature was a really Hollywood film star at the time. And if you look at the photos of Victor Mature, my father did look like him. So we always stirred him about it.
Okay, we'll have to look that up. Okay, well, thank you very much, Rose Wake. We didn't get your mum's surname. So Dad was Schipano.
Barba, B-A-R-B-A, Barba.
Barba, like the Barba. Okay.
Rosa Barba, yeah.
Rosa Barba. Okay.
Yeah.
And you named, well, if your number.
Number two, I was called after my grandmother, her mother.
Her mother, yeah, that'd be right. Okay, in the pecking order, so to speak. Fine, thank you very much, Rose.
Thank you.
On kind of on topic, a song that I've been playing a lot the last year or so. Portami a ballare, Luca Barbarossa. He's a singer-songwriter dedicated to his mother, in fact, in her later years. So Portami a ballare, and again, thank you, Rose Wake. Grazie. Schipano from Ascolta Women.